Some places are meant to keep us safe. Schools, classrooms, hallways filled with familiar faces. But sometimes the danger isn't outside. Sometimes it's already inside the building. Tonight, you're about to hear 3 terrifying, true lockdown stories. Moments when ordinary school days turned into living nightmares. A screaming man wandering the halls in the darkness. A disturbed stranger watching children from outside the campus. And a gunman hiding in the shadows of a school basement. In these moments, students and staff weren't just waiting for the bell to ring. They were waiting to see if they would survive. Turn down the lights, lock the door, and listen carefully. Because these are 6 chilling moments from 3 lockdown stories that prove one horrifying truth. When the school goes into lockdown, you never know who might be on the other side of the door. Before today's story begins, a warning. If you have a weak heart, stop the video now. Put on your headphones, turn off the lights. I'm Azad, and you're watching Ga Chomchom. Today's terrifying real experience was sent by our viewer, Raihan. Let's step into the darkness.
It was a typical, painfully boring Friday during 7th period calculus. The kind of afternoon where every student in the classroom was mentally checked out. Spring break was only hours away, and the excitement hung in the air like electricity before a storm. Our teacher was known for being unusually relaxed. Instead of forcing us through another dull lesson, he decided to open sporkle.com and played trivia games with the class. Everyone perked up immediately. For once, math class felt almost fun. We were halfway through a brand logo quiz when the moment happened. One of my friends shouted the answer to a question. Adidas! Almost instantly, the loudspeaker above the classroom door crackled to life. The dean's voice burst through the speaker, but something was wrong. His voice sounded panicked, strained, almost terrified. This is not a drill. All teachers initiate lockdown procedures immediately. The room froze. A cold shiver ran down my spine as goosebumps crawled across my arms. Even our normally calm teacher suddenly looked alarmed. Without saying a word, he rushed to the light switch and shut off the lights. The room plunged into darkness. "Everyone, back corner, now!" he whispered urgently. 30 students silently scrambled to the darkest corner of the classroom, crouching low behind desks and cabinets. No one spoke. For 2 long minutes, there was nothing but silence. Then suddenly, the faint electrical buzzing coming from a panel in the back of the room stopped. The power had been cut. A nervous murmur spread through the class before our teacher quickly shushed us. That's when we realized something horrifying. This wasn't a normal lockdown. Something was very wrong inside the school. And then, from somewhere down the hallway, a man began screaming. Not shouting, screaming like a madman.
The man's scream echoed through the dark hallway like something straight out of a nightmare. At first, it sounded distant, but with every passing second, it grew louder, closer, more violent. A chilling voice roared through the corridor. "I'll kill all of you!" The words sent a wave of terror across the classroom. My heart started pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. From our hiding spot in the corner, we could hear the man slamming violently into the lockers outside. Metal doors rattled and banged,
as if someone was smashing them with full force. Clang! 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 Two girls sitting near me suddenly began crying softly. One covered her mouth, trying to silence herself, but the fear was overwhelming. Our teacher quickly raised a finger to his lips. "Shh! Stay quiet," he whispered urgently. The screaming grew closer. The sound of footsteps stomped down the hallway, heavy, furious, unstable. Then suddenly, the banging stopped. For a brief second, the hallway fell completely silent. That silence felt even more terrifying than the noise. And then it happened. Bang! The classroom door shook violently as something slammed against it. Several students gasped. Bang! 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 The man was now pounding on our door with terrifying force. "Open up!" he screamed. One of the girls in the corner suddenly shrieked in pure panic. "No!" The pounding became even more aggressive, as if the man was trying to break the door down. For what felt like an eternity, he continued slamming his fists against the door, screaming like someone completely out of his mind. But then, just as suddenly as it started, the banging stopped. Footsteps slowly moved away down the hallway. His voice faded into the distance, still screaming wildly. We sat frozen in the darkness, too afraid to breathe. About 10 minutes later, though it felt like an hour, the loudspeaker finally crackled back to life. The dean began explaining what had happened. An unstable man had somehow entered the school building and attacked the woman at the front desk. She had escaped the building, screaming for help. No one knew if the man had a weapon. The most disturbing part came later that night. One of the janitors reportedly found the man sleeping inside a storage closet in the back of the school. And, according to rumors, a .44 Magnum revolver was sticking out of his pocket. Before police could arrive, the man disappeared. To this day, no one in my class knows if he was ever caught. But sometimes I still wonder, what would have happened if our classroom door had been unlocked?
What you're about to hear might steal your sleep tonight. So tell me, where are you listening from? How much has the fear increased? Let me know in the comments. If you're new, subscribe now, or you might miss the next horror.
At my middle school, lunch was divided into two separate periods. The first lunch period was for all 6th graders and some 7th graders. The second lunch period was for the remaining 7th graders and all the 8th graders. The lockdown happened in early October. That day felt strange from the start. The sky was dark and overcast, and cold rain tapped against the cafeteria windows. The gloomy weather made everything feel heavy and quiet. I was sitting with a few friends during first lunch period, eating and joking around like any normal day. Then, suddenly, boom! A loud sound echoed outside. Then another. Boom! 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 4 loud blasts in total. At first, I assumed it was thunder. The sky had looked like it could storm at any moment. But something felt wrong. Within seconds, the entire cafeteria exploded into chaos. Hundreds of students started screaming and jumping out of their seats. Chairs scraped across the floor, and trays clattered as food spilled everywhere. I remember thinking everyone was seriously overreacting. Relax, it's probably just thunder, I told my friends. But then, the campus security officers burst into the cafeteria. They looked panicked. "Everyone move, now!" one of them shouted. "Get into the multi-purpose room immediately." Students who were standing in line for lunch were forced to throw away their food and rush inside with the rest of us. My friends and I followed the huge crowd of students as we were pushed into the massive multi-purpose room. The room was enormous,
often used for assemblies and school events. One entire wall was made of large glass windows that faced the outside campus. As soon as we entered, several teachers rushed to pull the curtains over the glass. They sealed every exit. Adults stood guard at every door. The tension inside the room grew heavier with every passing second. Everyone began whispering. What's happening? Is someone hurt? Were those gunshots? My friend Eric decided to find out. He walked over to one of the teachers and quietly asked what was going on. When he came back to us, his face looked pale. Something was very wrong.
Eric walked back toward our group slowly, his face pale and tense. The usual joking expression he always had was completely gone. "What happened?" one of my friends asked immediately. Eric leaned closer and lowered his voice. "You know those houses right across the street from the school?" he asked. "Yeah," I replied. "Well, there's a guy in one of them who completely lost his mind." We all stared at him in confusion. Eric continued. "Apparently, the police showed up at his house earlier today because he's being evicted, but he barricaded himself inside and started threatening everyone." "What kind of threats?" someone asked nervously. Eric swallowed before answering. "He said if the police try to take him out, he'll kill them. Then he said he'll kill himself too." A cold silence spread across our group, but Eric wasn't finished. Before the lockdown, he said quietly, teachers saw him walking around outside the school, just standing there watching the kids. The words made my stomach twist. "Watching how?" I asked. Eric looked uncomfortable, like in a really creepy way. Then he added the worst part. Turns out he's a registered sex offender too. Several of us felt chills run down our backs. Suddenly, the lockdown didn't feel like an overreaction anymore. We were trapped in that massive room for nearly an entire hour. 2 full class periods passed, while everyone sat nervously on the floor, whispering and waiting. Eventually, the staff announced the situation had been handled. One by one, classes were escorted back to their classrooms under supervision. Later that day, I learned something even more disturbing. My friend Brandy lived in one of the houses near that same man. She told me that the previous Halloween, she saw him standing at his window late at night. He had been cutting his own arm. Using his blood, he wrote a message across the glass window. "Don't come here or I'll kill you." At the time, everyone assumed it was some kind of sick Halloween decoration. But after that terrifying lockdown, we all realized the horrifying truth. That man wasn't pretending. He was completely insane, and we were lucky he never got inside the school. What you're about to hear might steal your sleep tonight. So tell me, where are you listening from? How much has the fear increased? Let me know in the comments. If you're new, subscribe now, or you might miss the next horror. I was 22 years old, fresh out of college, when I got a job at my old high school. It wasn't a teaching job exactly. I worked as a computer intern in the school's basement, helping maintain servers and fixing technical issues for the staff. The basement itself was a strange place. Most of it was cluttered and poorly organized. Old desks, broken chairs, dusty storage boxes, and outdated equipment were stacked in messy piles along the concrete walls. The air always smelled faintly of metal and damp cardboard. But hidden in the corner of that gloomy basement was a small office, and surprisingly, it was very nice. Inside were 3 large desks, 2 mini fridges, a flat-screen TV mounted on the wall, and powerful air conditioning.
something the students and teachers upstairs didn't even have. The constant hum of the servers filled the room like white noise. I got the job thanks to 3 of my old computer teachers. They had always liked me when I was a student, and now they treated me more like a colleague than a former pupil. Most days were quiet, until one afternoon. I was sitting alone in the office during my lunch break, halfway through a sandwich, when my phone rang. It was one of the women from the front office. Her voice sounded tense. "The school is in lockdown," she said quickly. "Someone may have entered the building with a weapon. Stay where you are." The call ended before I could ask anything. A cold uneasiness spread through my chest. The basement, unfortunately, didn't even have a door, just a wide-open entrance leading into the basement hallway. Even worse, the main basement door upstairs didn't have a working lock. If someone dangerous came down here, there would be nowhere to hide. I immediately turned off the lights and shut down my computer screen. Darkness swallowed the room, as the only sound left was the low hum of the servers. I texted my coworkers, Dave and Gary. No response. Minutes passed slowly. I sat there in the darkness, nervously scrolling through games on my phone. Then, suddenly, the basement door upstairs creaked open, and someone began walking down the stairs.
The basement door slowly creaked open above the stairs. The sound echoed through the empty basement like something crawling out of the darkness. My body instantly froze. Heavy footsteps began moving down the concrete stairs. Step, step, step. Each step sounded louder than the last. My heart started racing. I pushed my chair back as quietly as possible and slid under the desk, pressing myself tightly against the wall. My breathing became shallow as I tried to stay completely silent. A few seconds later, someone reached the bottom of the stairs. Footsteps began walking across the basement floor. Closer, closer. Then suddenly, the footsteps entered the office. But the person didn't turn on the lights. The entire room remained in darkness. For a moment, there was only silence. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring. I could feel sweat running down my neck as I tried not to move a single inch. Then suddenly, ding! My phone lit up with a text notification. My heart nearly stopped. The sound seemed incredibly loud in the quiet room. Immediately, the footsteps began moving toward my desk. Slowly, deliberately. I realized something terrifying. Whoever was standing in the room had heard it. Panic flooded my mind. I couldn't think clearly anymore. Instead of waiting, I suddenly burst out from under the desk. "Please don't kill me!" I shouted in desperation. Before I could react, someone grabbed my arm and pulled me up. In the dim light coming from the hallway, I saw him. A man wearing a red plaid shirt, blue jeans, and a dark red cap. "Relax," he said quickly. "I'm hiding down here too." His voice sounded calm, but something about him felt wrong. "What's going on upstairs?" I whispered. Instead of answering, he asked something strange. "Is there another exit down here?" I pointed toward the basement door leading outside. But then I asked the question that changed everything. "Who are you?" He hesitated. Then he said he was just a father who came to pick up his son when a teacher told him to hide. At that exact moment, I checked my phone. It was a text from Dave. The message made my blood run cold. "Dude, this is insane. Some guy with a gun shot Mr. Buckley. He's wearing a red shirt and hat. Whatever you do, don't come upstairs." My hands started shaking. Slowly, I looked up at the man standing in front of me. Red shirt, red hat. He noticed my expression change. His eyes narrowed. That was the moment I knew. I turned and sprinted toward the stairs. A gunshot exploded through the basement floor. The bullet ricocheted off something metallic in the darkness behind me, but somehow it missed. I burst through the basement exit where police officers were already guarding the doors. Seconds later, the man tried to escape through the same exit. The officers arrested him immediately. Later, we learned that Mr. Buckley survived the gunshot, but the reason behind the attack was never fully explained. Even today, I still hear that gunshot echo in my mind whenever I think about that day.
And with that, tonight's terrifying story comes to an end. But remember, the deeper the night grows, the thicker the hidden mysteries become. Follow or subscribe now for more horrifying stories, if you dare.